She gets here, let her share some of that too. But the biggest thing I mean, I was in and out of the hospital most of my life as a kid, and they never really knew what was going on. I got diagnosed with like juvenile rheumatoid arthritis when I was like 17. And then I was put on all these different meds and stuff that just ended up more destroying my health. And after that journey, I kind of ended up discovering some stuff that were natural and putting in remission, to the point that one of the last blood work, they said it's almost like the rheumatoid highlights are not even there. But the problem with the system in Canada that I dealt with probably more started when I was in my 20s. And it was after I had my second son, and I got viral meningitis and almost died. And then after that, my body just was always doing strange things and always having issues happen. And during that time, I was living in a town that there was a look-alike like me, and she was a drug addict and a known drug addict. And so I would go to the hospital, and during that time, no one would look at me because they always assumed I was this other person. And basically, one time it happened to be so severe that they did it quite often at this one hospital. It got to the point where I knew I had to leave and go to a different hospital, which was like 45 minutes out of town, just to get help. But the second time I ended up having to go to this hospital because the ambulance took me there, and they put me on the floor for 10 hours, and I was in renal failure, and I went septic. And the only thing that saved me was the fact that this doctor who was a urologist, had been walking by to go check on a patient and saw the color in me, and came to me and says, "Ma'am, are you okay? Where you got pain?" And I said, "It's in my kidneys. I get chronic kidney stones." So I said, "I know where it is." I said, "I think I have a kidney stone, but it's blocked because I can't even use the bathroom. I can't even get anything out. So I've been here for 10 hours and they keep thinking I'm a drug addict. I don't know who this drug addict is. I'm a pastor. I don't do drugs." I wasn't even tattooed at that time. I didn't even look like I do now. Like I didn't get any of my tattoos till I was in my 30s. I was just looked like a soccer mom, you know? And so that guy saved my life, but it was like those doctors and nurses that were supposed to take care of me got in trouble. And so the moment that stuff started happening.
Do you want to share where that was in Canada?
That was in Langley, BC.
Okay.
Yeah. So as soon as that kind of stuff started happening, and Lesha lived with me at that time too.
Yep.
But as soon as that kind of stuff started happening, like once they thought I was this other lady in Langley that I wasn't, and then once they got in trouble for what happened with the kidney stone and me going septic, it just didn't matter. If I ended up in that hospital, I was not going to get the treatment I needed. I was not going to get the help. And they were more likely to kind of drug me up, not hear me, and then shove me aside. And
so you feel like your file was marked.
My
so
file
every
was
time
so
you went in
marked.
there.
My file was so marked. We knew it was marked too, because probably by the time I had so many different events happen. So I'll probably take it up to probably the biggest one that got me even over here, because this went on for years of knocking on doors and begging for help to figure out what's going on with my body. Because for years I was getting weird bruises. For years I was getting nosebleeds. For years I was dropping weight for no reason, and it would be I'd gain weight and drop weight, and I'd have this intense pains. Like, it didn't matter. I could be totally fine, and then boom, these crazy things would happen. And so we were always banging on the door trying to figure out what is going on, right? But a lot of times what happens, well, that hospital was just, they thought I was this other person, so that totally screwed, you know. And then they got in trouble, so now they got in trouble, so now we don't even like you. So we're never going to help you. And people who think that that doesn't happen, it happens.
Oh, it does.
It so happens. And so what I want to jump to is probably the one where this brought me to here, because like I said, for years. So basically what happened is I was having major issues with my health. I don't know, I started just dropping weight pretty quickly, rapidly.
Was that when you figured out that you had like crescent cells or something like that? Was that what it was?
Yeah, when my cells were like all like, yeah, they were kind of they were going like into a sickle form.
That's what it was.
And
cells.
they weren't like, yeah. So because of that, like we were having issues. My blood, for some reason, was going into like a sickle type form, and so it was causing this damage to my body because it wasn't flowing through my blood properly, and so I was getting erratic fevers and nosebleeds. That I mean, when I say nosebleeds, I mean like faucet, like I was one digit away from a transfusion for my nosebleeds. I broke the record in the hospital of the freaking most blood lost in a nosebleed, and this was chronic, and this was happening all the time. And then I was dropping massive amounts of weight. I was getting pains in my bones. I was nauseous all the blooming time. I couldn't keep food in, and so we were pounding on the door like crazy. I was going to my family doctor. My biochemist even came with me, saying, "Hey," he's like, "Well, maybe she's just not eating." And she's like, "No, man, like, you need to understand. I'm with her all the time. She's eating, and then she's puking.
Yeah.
She's drinking water, and it's coming out of her. Like, she's standing there, and all of a sudden we're doing work together, making stuff, and she's smiling away as happy as can be, and her nose just pours. We're standing there, and it's as great as can be. She turns pale, white, and she's fainting. We've checked her blood pressure, and it drops to nothing. We've checked her heart rate, and it drops to nothing and skips up to something. And they were all begging these doctors to help me and telling them all this stuff that they were witnessing. And it didn't matter. No one was giving me the tests I needed. So finally, it got to the point, it was just before Christmas. Probably a month before Christmas. Because, I was in the hospital for a month. So it was a month before Christmas. So a month before Christmas, Lesha and Thomas and a few of my friends just said, "Let's just get you to VGH." It was her mom.
What is VGH?
Vancouver General
Okay.
Hospital. Let's get her to VGH. Let's demand she don't leave till someone else. And it was her mom. Her mom has been practicing nurse. What kind of nurse was she?
She was in nurses training until she got pregnant with me, and I made her too sick to stay in school. So apparently that was okay. But so she took up courses again when she was in her 40s, and then loves doing geriatric care, but also knows a lot. And so she started advocating for Leanne as she was hearing about Leanne's constant issues and doctors not listening and all this other nonsense that was going on, and has been for a long time.
Yeah, she's been my advocate for quite a long time. I mean, probably the first time she advocated for me was when I was in the hospital for that long time, and they took all my medicines away.
Nice.
And then they were putting these other medicines in me that I was reacting to, and she's like, "They're gonna give you a heart attack. She can't be off this stuff," and she had to go in and fight.
Yeah.
And I almost died. Like, if it wasn't for her, and if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have made it out at all.
So this was at Christmas time. Oh, right, but month before Christmas.
So we're going a month before Christmas. She gets me, we all get me to Vancouver General. And thankfully we were able to get him to MME. And I was in a state where I pretty much was not even really able to communicate much at all.
No.
So Thomas and Lesha stepped in and started talking to doctors, telling them what's going on.
And that this is like a long-term normal thing, not just, she's not actually a hypochondriac. She's got a really messed up health system, and we've seen it for years. So, and also, coming by and taking Sadie out for some ball chasing so she wouldn't go insane. Because that's important too.
And I mean, and then we were at time we were pretty much fighting for several different types of tests.
By the way, I just want to interject that when who's ever watching this, when you hear her talk about Sadie, that's her service dog.
Yeah.
Sweet Sadie. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, like, it was so funny because even Thomas got to the point where he thought he was gonna have to marry me so he could have every right to advocate for me.
That's right.
But then people
about
just
that.
thought we were a couple, so it worked out well.
Yay.
He's my very gay friend, so it was funny. He was like, I can't believe it, they didn't question this. But it was that point. We even had a friend who was a pastor who was right there in the room. He's like, I will make it official just to save Leanne's life.
That's awesome.
And that's what it was, like. But like, we had a doctor in there, said it again, pulled the same thing all the other doctors did. While I was having these bleeds in front of him, while he was seeing all the bruises on my legs, while he was watching me throw up in front of him, he was so negative. He wanted to measure my barf. So they put a freaking thing in the toilet to measure my barf. And he still wasn't recognizing what was going on. And because it was so complex and because it wasn't fitting into their boxes, they would rather say, oh, she's a hypochondriac. So he starts going off about this in my room with me, with my buddy Thomas. Thomas goes, how can you even say that? How can you watch all of this happen to her in front of you and say that?
Do you know what year this was?
This is 2016.
Okay.
Oh yeah. that
December.
sounds right. Yeah.
Okay.
And they're like, well, we can't find anything. We need a Dr. House, maybe. We need somebody who's going to dig and not just label her. This can't happen to her. She can't keep getting labeled. She's not crazy. We've been watching this. We've seen it. She doesn't beat herself. It happens in front of us. She's not starving herself. She eats in front of all of us. Like, she's not making her body drop and have convulsions and having intense muscle spasms because we can feel it happening on her body. So we know she's not, it's not here. And so we would beg for all these tests. No one would do them. And then we actually fired one doctor
I should hope so.
because
At least one.
he was explained that I have to take, okay, when I get put under, I wake up. And the only reason I wake up is because it's just like I'm a tank with pain. I'm apparently a tank with pain meds too. And so the anesthesiologist, they even have in my record that I need, remember that? More, like twice the amount of what my body weight is. So if my body weight needs this much, I need that twice. And that is the only way to keep me to sleep. Otherwise, I wake up in surgeries. And the reason they know that is because it happened 3 times in Langley. So they put a medical record. And everyone told this doctor, you have to give her more. She will wake up after this amount of time. It's because of her central nervous system. Her body doesn't adapt to chemicals. So you have to add more. Even though you think you're going to kill her, you're not. Her system rejects most of what you're putting in, so you're only putting in half. And so they wrote that down. They said it. Guy even turns to the anesthesiologist, and the anesthesiologist says what to put in, and he did the half. And I even said before they put on my mask, you were told twice, and it was too late. I woke up, and instead of him putting me back under, he's like, I'm almost done.
What?
And wait a minute, can you describe what the surgery was that you were having?
He was
At the
doing
time?
he was doing a colonoscopy because I had a tear, so they were also repairing a tear at the same time. But they were going in with the camera and the scope. And he was told to keep me under. Because of the shock of everything, all of it, because of how thin I was. The pain, I already was intense pain. They didn't want to increase the pain. So I woke up. And I'm yelling at him, put me back, put me back, put me back. Because it was all I could say with this thing in my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think I got put me back, but I was trying to say put me back. He probably got rah, rah, rah. But yeah, he didn't listen. And then the nurse freaked out at him. And she gave me something to help. And then he came in to give the report, and me and Thomas told him he was fired. Don't touch me, don't come near me. He's like, well, you have to do another one. I don't give a shit. You're not doing it. You were never. He kept trying to apologize. He kept trying to make excuses for himself. He sat there in front of Thomas and I, just trying everything he could, even to the nurse, tried going past the nurse, and it was the nurse who helped me. So she was actually standing there on my side. Nurses, as Celeste, nurses always stood on my side.
No, nurses are good.
They always were there for me. And one nurse even saved my life because my heart stopped and the damn doctor still didn't put it in the freaking report. So I didn't even get to stand on that happening. And that was December 22nd. She gave CPR on my heart because I flatlined. And Brad and Brian West were there planning my funeral that day. So we all know I died. And she's like, you died. I know the experience I had in that death.
Mm-hmm.
And I know how long I was gone. She said I was gone for about a minute and a half.
Wow.
So that was a story that happened in my life all the time because the doctor that was the main doctor that oversaw everything, he wrote a report to the director of medicine to try and get me declared as a hypochondriac and crazy. So then I signed off. No, that was Vancouver General.
Mm-hmm.
So then I signed for a, whatever test they call it, a psych evaluation. That doctor went to the head after that, said, she's not crazy. She started having a nosebleed and everything and started throwing up right when I was doing the evaluation. She's got a clear head. She's kind, she's caring. She's a great person. She does all this community stuff. Someone needs to help her. You guys just haven't figured it out. And so there was a note then sent to strike what that doctor put on my reports. This must be stricken from my reports. La-di-da. That doctor didn't care, didn't listen, and he sent that to my family doctor. And my family doctor after that, he was sent all from, so the director of medicine got involved. They decided that, it's Christmas. Do you want to go home or do you want to stay here and we just keep doing these tests? Well, I died and came back, and at this point I just want to fuck out of there. I just want out. You guys are trying to kill me. I'm done. Like, you guys try to make me feel crazy. I passed that. And now you want to do everything I need. Is there another way I can get everything I need and not be in here? Because I'd like to go home for Christmas. Because they said if I'd stayed, I'd be there for Christmas, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they were like, yeah, we could send an entire report to your doctor, tell him what tests to run, what specialists to send you to, and make sure that he does it. And that could work. So they did that. I go to my family doctor. I went with my friend Jen, who's the biochemist. And he wouldn't do all the tests. I had to beg him, and that was because my friend came in with me. And I think he recognized that he was going to get in trouble if he didn't. But I had to beg him to send me to a cardiologist. It was his friend. And the cardiologist didn't even finish the tests because I only lasted 5 minutes on the treadmill. Remember I told you about that nurse grabbing my hand saying, I saw a glitch?
Right.
You haven't even been on the treadmill long enough for anyone to see what's going on. And they need to pay attention that you couldn't even do it. You couldn't even complete it because you just got exhausted and turned white. But they didn't. They sent the report to Dr. Schultz and they said, we can't see anything. Even though that nurse told me, she gave me all a stack of cards of different cardiologists to call and say, beg one of them to look at your file. Beg your doctor to give a referral. But you can't go see anyone without a referral, right? In Canada? Welcome to Canada. No referral, you don't get in.
Yeah.
We went back to the doctor, said, listen, I did not complete this. We've been monitoring my heart because I have a naturopath who's now helping me, who thinks this is lying, who thinks that I've had this probably since I was a kid, and is also concerned that it possibly could be looking at some type of blood cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's suggesting a bone marrow biopsy, and she's suggesting this specific type of test for Lyme because the basic one won't show the kind of Lyme that she thinks I have. Because I wouldn't have gotten it from Canada. I would have gotten it from Texas, which means it's the Gulf War disease, which is deadly, and you gotta get treated right away. And if you don't, then it becomes what's called chronic Lyme, and that's it. And so she was concerned about that. She was concerned I had 5 different Lymes. My naturopath wrote letters. Then the doctor, Carol McCallum, wrote letters as well because she was a research doctor and she thought I had central nervous system syndrome. And she also thought I had mold intoxication and metal intoxication. And she thought that I needed to get STAT, the same test that my other naturopath suggested to this doctor, in front of my friend Jen, while we're in tears, while I'm trembling, while I'm showing him all the bruises. And I say to him, just do these tests, what does it matter? Like, I've gone knocking on all these doors and no one will do these tests. Obviously you can't figure it out. And if these are the only tests not taken, and he turns around and says, well, everyone just thinks you're crazy anyway.
Good.
And my friend Jen says all the things I told you before, telling her. I've known her her whole life. I've known her since she was 15 years old.
Because she's vouching for you, but they don't really
I'm
care.
a biochemist. I'm seeing all this. Our naturopath's the only who actually, by the way, was an oncologist prior. So she got more education than you. And she doesn't stop her education.
Yeah.
And I can't afford the test to pay for it. And I also said, I think my tumor's back. Because I'm starting to get the dizziness I used to get. I'm starting to get the headaches I used to get. I'm starting to get the palpitations in my heart that I used to get. And he goes, oh, you're just having anxiety and it's stress. I said, what the hell am I stressed about?
What hospital took care of your first brain tumor?
Vancouver General Hospital.
Okay.
It was Dr. Grise that did the surgery, but he died.
And what year was that?
What year did he die? Or
What year? Sorry, what year did he do the surgery for? Was your first brain tumor removed?
I would have been 25, right?
I
It was
think
just
so.
before you got married.
Yeah,
Oh,
because
yeah.
I had been living with them when I was 19, and
Yeah.
then I think it happened after I moved out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like just after you got moved out was when I got
Mhm.
diagnosed with it.
So the
it was in, like,
the original care that you got with that doctor was good, and then he died.
Oh, no. That doctor.
That wasn't good either.
No. The surgeon was good.
Oh, the surgeon.
But that doctor
okay.
who we had to get to diagnose it, I had to go to a walk-in clinic because the doctor that I had to get diagnosed it, I sent me for a CT scan. The CT scan had a report on it saying we see a shadow and needs an MRI, or it could be a sinus infection. But we're not certain that we think she needs an MRI because where the tumor was just below where a CT would get, right? And if you would listen to them then, it wouldn't have gotten to the size that it was where it was killing me.
Yeah.
And I would have been able to get it removed, which meant I would have been able to get it removed when I would have been left with an entire whole pituitary gland still.
Okay.
But what that doctor did was he said, you have a sinus infection. I was like, it's the craziest sinus infection I've ever seen in my life. I'm dropping weight. I'm losing balance. I can't see sometimes. If I start driving, motion gets to me and I'm just throwing up.
So at this point, you have no one who will take you seriously.
No one was taking
Is that
me
when you
seriously.
decided to come to America?
No, that was a long
No,
time ago.
that one was a long time ago. But now we're sitting in the office for you. You want to know when the first one was?
Okay. Oh, so they
now-
treated you the same the first time
Yeah.
that they
Oh,
did
yeah.
the second time.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
I
yeah.
thought we had fast forwarded. Okay, so the first time they treated you like you're crazy, and then fast forward the second time, and you're still being treated like you're crazy.
Exactly.
Even though you have a prior history of a
Exactly.
brain tumor. Okay.
So, and not only that, I had been begging for an MRI. I'm supposed to have an MRI on my tumor. At first, it was supposed to be every 6 months. After the every 6 months and you're clear and things
Yeah.
look decent, then it's once a year.
Yeah.
After the once a year, it's then every 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I was at the every 2 year mark, and I'd been begging for 3 years for an MRI.
And they hadn't been.
They hadn't given it to me.
What?
So finally, I said, "Can I just get a referral for one that I go pay for?"
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we'll do that. So I had to pay $1,000 to go for a private MRI to prove that my tumor had returned.
And
And
did they
even
give you a
after
reason
that-
why they wouldn't give you a referral?
Because he said everyone thinks I'm crazy.
Okay.
The truth was no one ever freaking finished any of the tests. I never made it through them to even have me be labeled crazy. I couldn't make it through them. Like one test they were doing, I ended up throwing up and shutting down the whole ward before they could finish the test. So, I mean, that was happening continuously. And what was happening was I was so complex. I was frustrating them, and their pride was getting in the way. And so they were getting told by naturopaths, they were getting told by alternative medicine what to look for, and they didn't like that. And they were getting told by me what to look for, and they didn't like that. It drew me to a place where I was stuck with my health in a system where it's free. And even where it's free, I couldn't get to the specialists I needed. I had to start paying in my own system for help. I had to start going to naturopaths to pay them for specific tests that my freaking system could have done for free. And I was on disability, forced on disability by my own government because of my health.
Yeah.
And I got told if I worked, I would go to jail. And not only on top of that, let's face it, my house burned down and people gave me money with a piece of paper saying what to buy with that money, which is then considered a gift. So I bought all the things that money was for, and then my disability turned around and said that was money I should have been using, and then if they wanted it as a gift, they should have bought the furniture themselves and then given it to you. And so what they did, they took $32,000 out of my account. It was for my kids, and then charged me 100% interest on it, and said
What?
that technically I should have used that $32,000 instead of still collecting disability. I was like, no, my house burnt down. I lost every single thing of furniture, every single piece of clothing. And I was in the hospital for months, and my friends sent money with pieces of paper. I sent them every piece of paper saying what it was and what I had to buy. I said I never missed one of the items. So technically they did buy it for me. They just wanted me to pick out which colors I wanted. And so that was the kind of stuff I had to deal with. So then I'm in this system, I'm with this doctor, and they're trying to tell me, again, we're not going to help you. We just think you're crazy. My friends are all in there fighting. One of them even being her mom. One of them even being a specialist, an internal medicine specialist who studied my health and wrote a letter to that doctor. She finally got so frustrated, she said to him, because I got mad. I said, I told him to fuck off in one of his things, because I was like, I just need this test. Could you just get it for me? He goes, everyone just thinks you're crazy anyways. I'm not going to waste medical stuff to do this test. And I'm like, really? Just fuck off, dude. I just proved to you I have a tumor. And he goes, if you're going to talk to me like that, I'm not your doctor anymore.